The Sex and the City reboot, and just like that, wrapped season 2 last night. And if you, like me, watched any of it, you might have been thinking, and just like, what was that? What it was the most watched show on Max Original. Is it good? Does it matter? We'll get into it. I'm Talia Schlanger, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. So, a quarter of a century ago, 25 years ago, we first heard this. That was the sound of Carrie Bradshaw and her friends sashaying onto our screens in their Manolos and their tutus. And while the original show spawned a whole culture that celebrated the power of single women, specifically wealthy, white New Yorkers, the reboot, and just like that, finds the same women in midlife, their outfits still fabulous, their calendars still full of charity benefits and brunch dates. There's still a whole lot of dating drama, and we just found out there is going to be a third season. Chris Murphy, Amil Niazi, and Lainey Lui are here to chat, and just like that, plus some of the other big arts and pop culture stories this week. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. I want to get right into it with a clip from the finale. Okay, so Carrie hosts the Last Supper at her old apartment. She asks everyone at the table to say one thing they want to let go of. And when it's her turn, she says she is letting go of expectations.
And I'm talking about, assuming things will go the way we think they should. Because you never know what tomorrow will bring. And it might be greater than anything you ever expected.
Carrie, that was way more than one word.
That's a clip from the finale. Chris, you're shaking your head. You co-host a podcast for Vanity Fair called Still Watching about And Just Like That. What are you thinking now? How satisfied were you with the season finale?
With the season finale, I was somewhat satisfied. I do think it felt like it was going to be a series finale, and I was sort of shocked to hear that And Just Like That was getting renewed for a third season. So it felt like it was sort of satisfying. If that was the end of Carrie's journey and the gang's journey, it would have been fine. But I'm sort of happy that we're continuing because I do think and hope there's more story to tell. I don't know what that story is, but I hope there's more story to tell.
I hope somebody knows what that story is. But nice to hear that you felt that the finale was satisfying. Did you find the season at large satisfying too?
I can't say that it was good. This is what I say. I can't say it was good, but I looked forward to every episode and I had fun watching every single episode. And I think that's what matters.
Okay, there you go. Lainey, this is the most popular thing streaming on Max right now. Chris has just said he didn't think it was good, but maybe that doesn't matter. You've described it as a hate watch. Why?
I don't think it's just me. I think that there are a lot of problems with the story. And I don't think they necessarily originated with this series or this iteration. I think the problems kind of started with the films. And so I'm glad to see Chris nodding there because I feel like, with the films, it had already been exposed that maybe it had run its course in its series, and then to bring it back for the films and then this series, it's been a hate watch for people because, again, I don't think that the decisions that a lot of the characters are making really correspond to what we knew of the show before. Of course, there's one woman missing or has been missing. So that's the big Samantha in the room. And so I think a lot of the talk about this season, and especially that final episode that you were just talking about, was about the return of Kim Cattrall for the 74 seconds that she showed up on screen, and why she wasn't even with the other characters. So I don't know that that's a succinct answer, or even did I even answer your question, but I don't know that it's high quality TV in the way that, ironically, Sex and the City ushered in the era of peak TV back in the 90s alongside The Sopranos.
The New York Times review this morning was talking about Kim Cattrall's 75-second cameo, and they described it as more of a hostage proof of life video. She's like calling in on the phone, and we can see her on screen, so we know she's live. We need a counterpoint here. And Amil, I'm looking to you. What's your take?
Yeah, I don't think it's a hate watch at all. I think a hate watch is something that you dip into once or twice and then you stop. But as you mentioned, it's the most streamed show on HBO Max, and it's streamed for a reason. People can't stop watching. And I think I'm more in the Chris camp, where it's like, it's not necessarily good, but I don't think it matters. It's never mattered if Sex and the City is good. It's never mattered that the storylines are coherent or make sense, or that a writer can afford to have a closet full of Manolos. That's not why we watch. We love these characters. We find comfort in their ridiculousness. I just love hearing Sarah Jessica Parker's voice. She has such a lovely voice. She makes clothes look good. And I think we're watching for the fantasy and the nostalgia at this point. Like, I really think Rain Fisher Kwan put it best when she said, I think the show is terrible, and yet I never want it to not be on. And that's how I feel too. It's like, please make me 1,000 more episodes. Let's have like 12 seasons.
I'd be more inclined to watch the Golden Girls reboot of Sex and the City. Like, I want to see 70s and 80s Carrie Bradshaw. Give me that.
We can be there, Talia. It's only going to take another 10 years.
Yeah, at this rate, we're almost there.
Exactly.
Well, rather than looking forward for a second, I want to dig way back to what Lainey was just talking about, and Sex and the City sort of ushering in this era of prestige TV, or at least being part of HBO becoming a major player. What did Sex and the City, Lainey, do for you when it first aired back in 1998, I think it was? 98, 99?
Yeah, well, I think what it did for me is what it did for a lot of people, which is, put on screen these four women who were talking about sex and having sex and what bad sex was like and what good sex was like. And, I think, sure, we are much more comfortable with talking about sex now, but back then we weren't seeing that. We weren't seeing, a show with sex in the title and then also sex in the story. And in addition to, of course, everything that Amil just said about the fashion, the friendships, all of that, I think that it was just also the way that women were allowed to speak with each other in real conversation, not in polite conversation.
Yeah, it was a big deal at the time, and it aired sort of late night, and it felt a bit like secretive if you were watching it, like it was a thing to talk about, but maybe not that openly or not with everyone. And then, how much the conversation has changed. Since then, of course, as Amil mentioned, like the original series was full of gaps. How did writers afford Manolos and these apartments? Also, how did people living in New York City manage to do so without ever having a friend who was a person of color? We don't know. This is a mystery. The reboot series is clearly trying to fill in some of those gaps for us. And there's been a lot of criticism about how two-dimensional some of these new characters are, especially Che Diaz, who is the love interest for Miranda, played by Sarah Ramirez. I want to play a clip.
Miranda, we were a train wreck.
Okay. But like a good train wreck, right? Where nobody dies and you get off the train in a new place. A place where you needed to go to. But only that train could get you there. That's what I want to believe.
Okay. We were a good train wreck.
Oh, stop.
Chris, how did you feel about what the show did with Che's character in particular?
I think it was tough. I think the first season, their character was definitely two-dimensional, felt like they were from a different planet, that they were there just as a plot device to sort of get Miranda to, her new queer self. And they were a comedian. They weren't really funny at all. And then in the second season, I do think Che as a character was more fleshed out and became sort of a villain, a three-dimensional villain of the show. And still a comedian, not telling any funny jokes, but was definitely more of a full-fledged person, better or for worse, And yeah, I think they rounded out the edges of Che by making them kind of the villain of the series.
So much so that Sarah Ramirez is having to remind people what acting is. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're having to say publicly, like,
I am not Che Diaz.
I know you don't like Che,
people.
But like, I'm an actor, so that's which is a whole.
It's really wild,
isn't it?
Yeah. And they sort of threw Michael Patrick King under the bus. I would not be surprised if we don't see Che Diaz on season 3, given what they said on Instagram. They called out a profile written by Brock Collier in New York Magazine. And they were like, if you have issues with, the things that come out of Che Diaz's mouth, then you should take them up with, the cisgendered man who is in charge of the writing. So Che is thorny. It's a thorny situation there.
Emil, did you have anything to add to that as you're nodding along?
No, I mean, Che is very thorny, but I also feel like it is unfair. Samantha Irby, who's such a brilliant, brilliant writer and who writes on this show, has said that, people don't give the writers' room enough credit, that they're in on the joke as well. And I think that, when I think of a name like that, I think of a talent like that, I have to go, okay, well, I'm sure that they're not sitting in the room going, oh, we think this is a very lovable, delightful character who is very funny at stand-up comedy. So I want to really believe, like in an optimistic way, that they know it's a winking kind of character. And I think they did become quite fleshed out. And I don't want to be like a Che supporter. I'm obviously not. They're a terrible person, but, I think to have a non-binary character on a show like this that is so streamed, that is so popular, is also very important. And it's also changing the conversation at the same time. So it's like Che is good and bad. You know what I mean? It's getting us to the train station.
It might be a train wreck, but we're at the station. No, but also, I mean, groups that are underrepresented or people that are cast aside by shows like this and are now being put at the forefront also have license to not be perfect. Like we don't, if we're suddenly bringing somebody into the fold that maybe hasn't been represented in this world before, they shouldn't have to be lovable. They're allowed to be a whole human, or any of the types of ways that a human would be. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that's life. Like we all contain multitudes. I also felt in watching the acting of this season that everybody got their agent to put in a special clause that they were going to get to have a big dramatic moment. Like every character this season got to have their big giant dramatic crime moment. Just as we close out, Emil, Carrie is 56 in this season. We already have talked about how we want to see many more seasons into their 70s and 80s. Any predictions on where you think that this might go next?
I'm going to say something so shocking, but I really hope Aiden also dies, because I'm not interested in like a happy,
yes,
satisfied Carrie. Like, can we please get a woman in her 50s into her 60s dating and showing what it's like to be living like that without children, living your life out loud and proud, and it would be fun. And I'm sorry to the Aiden fans, whoever they are, but like that man needs to go, and we need to see Carrie in that apartment dating and being happy, because I'm not into this romance at all. So
the 5-year plan is so ridiculous. I don't want to see Carrie sitting around for 5 years waiting for Aiden and his stormtrooper jacket to come back from Norfolk, Virginia. I don't want that.
No.
But does he have to perish? Can he just stay in Virginia a little bit?
No,
you
want to die.
He has to die. Okay.
I'll tell you why he has to die, because I think it's a safety net. Mm-hmm. For shows to go back all the time. The fact that Aiden was brought back, it was kind of an eye roll. I mean, I was never for Aiden at the way back when. I thought he was dull. So dull. And so you have to kill him so that they can't, I don't know, whatever, 3 seasons from now be like, wait a minute, ratings are dipping. Let's bring back Aiden. I don't want that option for them.
Well, okay, it's settled. He's got to perish. Sorry, Aiden. I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about a TV show that has become a surprise hit this summer. And the reason it is so surprising is that this show actually went off the air 4 years ago.
Prosecution calls Rachel Zane to the stand.
Miss Zane, take the stand.
We can skip swearing her in, since she's just going to lie about it anyway.
Objection.
Miss Zane, if you got married 6 weeks after dating the defendant, why are you engaged to him right now?
Because we did it on a whim. And we'd planned to have an annulment, but once we fell more in love, we thought that it might be wonderful to reveal it to our families after we were married again.
And how exactly did it go when you got married the first time?
We were in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't give a shit where you were. What color was your dress?
That's a clip from the top streamed show this month, Suits. That Suits, the one starring Meghan Markle, pre-Duchess. Last month, the show racked up nearly 18 billion streaming minutes on Netflix and Peacock. It has broken the record for most streams in a week twice. This is another example of something that's not necessarily prestige TV, but is killing it. Emil, what's going on here?
A lot is going on here. I think that, number one, we, like with And Just Like That, we really are desperate for comfort. It's hard to properly unplug these days. We're always like on our laptops, on our phones. We watch TV with multiple screens. So to truly turn your brain off, you really need the kind of television that can just exist in the background. And it can play for multiple seasons. It's not too complicated. You can dip in and dip out. Your grandmothers used to call them their stories. It's basically a procedural or a soap opera that allows you to enmesh in a world where you can both be engaged and tuned out at the same time. And I think it's very, very comforting. And it makes sense to me. It really is a lot like watching Law and Order or CSI.
Chris?
Yeah, I think we're nostalgic for a time pre-streaming where we had these procedurals. We had Law and Order SVU, NCIS, Criminal Minds, right? These shows that were 20-episode seasons that lasted for, decades, right? And you could just sort of really enmesh yourself into the series and sort of live with these characters for a long time. Now, in the streaming age, we get seasons of television that are 4 episodes. How you can't lose yourself in a 4-episode season of a show. So I think it shows that the streaming model, while it definitely disrupted cable television, we do still like that model. There's still a want to live with characters for episodes and episodes and episodes and multiple seasons, and not just, 8 episodes and then we're done.
And also to maybe be able to miss a word or two along the way. Like with prestige TV, it's like you gotta be watching the artfulness of every second, right?
Yeah, phone down, locked in. And it's like, sometimes I want to be scrolling or making dinner and then be like, oh, that's happening too, in the background. I think that's fine. I think it's okay to want that.
Oh, it's still happening. Also, though, Lainey, you've talked about how sexy Suits is. What makes it so hot?
Well, I think it's safe sexy. It's not like porny or it's not HBO sexy. It's good kissing. It's kissing in like the photocopy room. So like, a woman in a pencil skirt and a man in a suit meet in the photocopy room, and they've been repressing their chemistry for so long, and they just, in between pages decide to go in for a kiss. I think that there is a general lack of sex overall in movies and TV more and more. And when there is sex, it's like really sad and traumatic. And I really think that this is one of those shows where occasionally, not even more, semi-frequently, you're going to get a good hot kiss, and very well choreographed with nice hands around the neck and good lip action. I think people like that. I do. And I miss it. And I think that is a quality that Suits delivers.
I'm thinking about the sex montage in the And Just Like That finale. I mean, that was a show that is based on Sex and the City, a show that was allegedly all about sex. And I have to say that sex montage, I was like, oh my God.
Where Charlotte buys an iPhone, that was her version of sex. Setting up an iPhone with Harry, it's not as sexy.
I did find it offensive a little bit, because I was like, just because we're a little older doesn't mean we shouldn't still be having it was pretty lukewarm, we'll say. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
It was lukewarm, and I think there's an art to it. Storytelling is supposed to be about human beings, and human beings have sex. Some of us do, I guess. I mean, I know that they're, worried about the new generation having less and less sex. I don't necessarily think it's not less and less sex, or I think maybe it's less and less sex because people are having so much bad sex. And there are many reasons why people are having bad sex, and people blame porn. But on the other side of it, if not for porn, then give people something to watch where they can learn their skills. And actors can be trained, like our sex trainers. And but if we're getting less and less of it, then I don't know. I don't know where we're going to get our horny education.
Well, thank you, Suits, for that. And thank you, Lainey, for saying that on the air. I did not have that on my bingo card for the day, but I'm not mad about it. In the spirit of keeping things light and maybe mining the archives, just one more topic before we say goodbye. This band was in the news this week, even though they broke up 20 years ago. Lainey, what's up with NSYNC? Why are we all bopping to them this week as we are doing right now?
Okay, so there's a lot of NSYNC talk because Justin Timberlake's new Trolls movie is coming out this fall. And it's been reported that all the other NSYNC members, so that's Joey, Chris, Lance, and JC, will have cameos in the movie, and that they have reportedly recorded a new single, which would be their first single since Girlfriend. And now there are also rumors that there's going to be like maybe a one-off reunion concert. So our theme today is nostalgia. And for those people who were major NSYNC fans who are now in their 30s, 40s, 50s even, this is a big deal, a reunion. It also didn't seem likely for a long time because Justin Timberlake went on to a very successful solo career and always kind of gave the vibe that he had left his boy band days behind, that was beneath him. But look who's come crawling back.
Well, you just used the word crawling, and you've said that, maybe he wouldn't be doing this if his career was going in a different way. Is that part of things?
Well, he's not popping right now, as the kids would say. A Man of the Woods, his album in 2018, was a flop. And he's culturally not very popular. I mean, since then, people are mad at him for Britney. People are mad at him for Janet. People are mad at him for Prince. People are mad at him for just being him. And so he is not the cultural superstar that he once was. He kind of needs to tap into the nostalgia to generate some goodwill.
Chris, you were a huge NSYNC fan growing up. I know. Does the world need more of them right now?
Wow, capitalism is a hell of a drug. I think whether or not the world needs them, I do think it's going to make a ton of money. I think right now we're in a 90s renaissance, right? Y2K fashion we're going back to the early aughts. We're going back to the late 90s. It's trendy right now. So it would kind of be silly for them not to capitalize on that in a big way. And I was a little teeny bopper, a little, 8-year-old back in, the day when, NSYNC was really popular. And I'm excited. I'm excited for it because, Justin, you're right. Lainey's totally right. Justin has been flopping. People are mad at him. I do think this is a way to sort of engender goodwill to the public and to bring back these faces and these people that, we haven't seen. I mean, Lance Bass has been everywhere. So we've seen him. We haven't seen Chris and Joey and, and JC Chazes. Where has he been?
JC.
JC, where has he been? So
Justice
I
for
welcome
JC.
it. He was the best singer in the group, and I will say that he was always the best singer in the group.
Justice for JC.
Justice. So if it brings back JC, then I'm all for it. And if they make a buck, God bless them.
God bless them. We have just about a minute left. Amil, everything we've been talking about today has roots in another decade, right? More evidence that nostalgia is a massive cultural force at this moment. How does that sit with you?
I mean, I'm a millennial. I'm square in the group this is supposed to appeal to. And, personally, I went to Lilith Fair, so I didn't really care for NSYNC myself. Not that you can't do both. Plenty of people did. But, I just think we're just experiencing this for the first time as a generation. We're so used to being like young and cool and part of the cultural conversation. And now suddenly we're not. We're like the old people who are like, hey, that reminds me of being young. And I just think it's very funny to be middle-aged. That's all I'll say about that. It's a strange feeling.
It is. Okay, before we go, can you each give me one recommendation to check out this weekend? Amil, we'll go to you first.
Okay, well, in the spirit of like comfort watches and things that are not really good, but you still can't stop watching, I've finally started watching Yellowstone. And wow. To live in the mind of Taylor Sheridan forever. That's my new dream. I'm moving to Montana. I'm becoming a cowboy. I'm getting branded. It's all happening for me. Season 1. Quality television. Who knew? I'm sure Elamin is going to roast me for this because he's always been trying to get me to watch. And I was like, I'll never watch that show. Well, guess what? I watched it. I loved it. I'm going to keep watching it.
You're moving to the ranch. Okay. Chris, how about you?
Okay, so I also have a rewatch. It's a little bit different than Yellowstone. I was a big Scandival person, but I had never watched Vanderpump Rules from the very beginning. I did not know the first in seasons. And I turned 30 in like literally 10 days or so. And I will say watching seasons 1 and 2 of Vanderpump Rules is the best thing for the soul when you're about to hit a birthday. It will make you not miss your 20s in any way. They are insane. The things they do to each other, the punches, the cheating, the backstabbing, and then you look to the future and you see 10 years down the road, they're all sort of exactly the same in the Scandival. So you can still be young. You can still maintain your youth. Age is just a number. Vanderpump Rules seasons 1 and 2, you won't regret it. It is some of the craziest television I've ever seen.
Chris, can I just say they're not that far apart? Yellowstone and Vanderpump Rules, they're on a spectrum. They're on a spectrum.
They're together. I love that. Now I'm going to check out Yellowstone.
Lainey, what's your pick?
Well, first of all, Amil, welcome to the Rip, Reel, or Thirst Club.
Lainey, girl, you know, all night I was like, rip.
There you go. So welcome. I never thought that would be my thing. And then I watched the show and I was like, why am I into a violent cowboy? Anyway, so I'm going to keep in with the nostalgia theme. I guess it's Miley Cyrus trying to be nostalgic. Her new song, Used to Be Young, just dropped. It's the 10th anniversary of Wrecking Ball and her twerking anniversary at the MTV VMA. So she's released this song. First of all, LOL Miley, who is 30, talking about used to be young. Okay, sit down. But I really love the song. I've been playing it all morning. It's Miley at her pop ballad classic best. It's very listenable. The lyrics are great. So that is my sort of weekend listening jam recommendation.
Thank you all so much. This has been really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amil Niazi is a culture critic and columnist at The Cut. Chris Murphy is a writer for Vanity Fair. He co-hosts the podcast Still Watching and Just Like That. And Lainey Lui is an E-Talk contributor and the woman behind the legendary site, Lainey Gossip. Okay, that's it for the show today. Before we go, I want to tell you about the amazing team who helped get Commotion on the air. The show is produced by Stuart Berman, Ty Callender, Jean Kim, Jane Van Couverden, Jess Lowe. Our digital producer this week is Amelia Ekbal. Jean Kim is also our director today. Our engineer is Sam Hashmi. The senior producers this week are Danielle Grogan and John Perry. Anne McKeegan is our executive producer. Our intern is Mofe Adeniran. Today is Mo's last day on Commotion. Mo, from all of us on the show, thank you so much for being here. It's been so great to have you. We're excited to see where you go next. I'm Talia Schlanger. It's been fun sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. He is back with you on Monday, and I'll see you next time.